Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland, and today I've got Rebecca Kennedy on the show. What's up, Rebecca?
Hi, guys. What's up?
How are you?
I am excellent. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today.
Well, we're excited to have you. So you are the Peloton Master Instructor. You are a former NFL cheerleader, a USA gymnastics athlete. You are a dancer, a celebrity trainer. My goodness, you got a lot of stuff cooking.
Yeah, I dabble in a few things here and there. It definitely has been a full, fun experience in the fitness industry over the last decade so far.
Absolutely. Well, you get the benefit of getting to work out for a living, so that's pretty nice. And some of us have to, get up early in the morning, or we got to do it at night. Or if you're like me, I showed you earlier on the video, my Peloton sits in the corner of my office. We got to get our work in. But tell us, for those of the people that maybe don't have a Peloton out there, people that are around me all the time, they're like, oh, here he goes again. He's going to talk about the Peloton. But it is a game changer. Tell us why, in your experience, why you think it is a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's just been so many hurdles for people to kind of obstacle their way over and find excuses not to bring fitness into their daily life. And in all honesty, it depends on where you live. I think we've figured out the way to help people find fitness in their daily regime, whether it's for 5 minutes or for an hour. There's a way for you to be part of not just like your own fitness journey, but be part of a bigger community too. So you get to meet like-minded people. We figured out like the coaching. So I know being in the gym for so many years, I just saw, I felt the pain of those coming in and not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And not having a trainer, not wanting to join a class. Maybe the time didn't work out. Maybe a gym was too far away. Like I know, talk to so many new moms and dads that just like can't leave the house for like, logistically to get a babysitter for you to like go to the gym for an hour. Like it's pretty tough. So I think we figured out a way to bring the spirit of group fitness and personal training into your home. And it just, you said it yourself, like if you're going to stare at your bike every day or at your tread every day, you're going to use it. Yeah.
And I mean, just the equipment, just the physical aspect of it is amazing. I mean, it is the best stuff. I've got another bike and treadmill and stuff like that at home, but nothing compares to that. And then the nice screen and all this stuff. I could go on and on, but I think, for people listening to this show, obviously fitness is usually a priority for most people. And it's really become a big priority of mine for the last year, but I've had to make it that way. And I will tell you that as a guy, I'm now 41, who thankfully had good genes and have stayed skinny, but I have not been a normal workout person. Right. And so, I'll do stuff here and there. I stay active with kids. I play basketball. I do those things. But for me, the Peloton, whether it's right here on the app or if it's on the bike or if it's on the treadmill, or I can go outside and listen to you guys and tell us what to do when we're running, or if I'm walking the dog, here, walk this way, It just takes so much of the emotion and the difficulty out of working out.
Yeah, no, I mean, like having a friend there, especially like connecting with, there's so many different trainers, instructors on the app that everyone will find someone that they really, really connect with.
Yeah.
And, we all have our favorites. And I think it's helpful to have that familiarity and that camaraderie between just the people that are on the app and you meet each other, and then having that person in your ear giving you the motivation. So even if you don't own a piece of hardware, I could also go on about that. I mean, gosh, I've taught on treadmills for so many years, and the wear and tear that it can put on your body if you're not running on something that's like the Peloton, your joints are just like getting beat over and over. But I mean, from the bike, and it's so silent and smooth and really comfortable. And then the tread, the slat belt, it's like, if you haven't run on one before, I can't wait for to hear your feedback the first time you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like driving a Ferrari. I mean, the speed and incline knobs, they roll, so you don't have to, there's no buttons that you're typing in anything. It's not, kind of take the cumbersomeness of a regular treadmill out of it.
You don't have to almost kill yourself to raise your speed.
Say that again.
So you don't have to kill yourself to raise your speed.
Yeah, no kidding. It's just right there for you, you know? Lovely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, tell us, Rebecca, you know what, before we move off of that, everybody always asks us when you say something about Peloton, the question is always, oh, who's your favorite instructor, right?
Yeah.
I got to ask you, if you can't work out with yourself, Rebecca Kennedy, on the Peloton app, who are you working out with?
Oh,
and
my
maybe
God.
You can't say because you don't want to make any of your friends mad, but.
No, I mean, everyone has their favorites. And I think just like you have your favorites too, I love everyone for a different reason.
Absolutely.
But I'm a huge hip hop junkie. So if I'm on the bike, I'm obsessed with Alex Toussaint's hip hop rides. If I'm taking a yoga class, I absolutely adore Ross Rayburn.
Yep.
I love running with Bex Gentry. Andy Spear, this is a fun fact, before he was an instructor with me on Peloton, back in the day, he was my personal trainer.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I love working out with Andy. I mean, you said you meditate yourself. So using the app, Aditi has like, I see her regularly. I'm like, is it weird that your voice is like the last thing I hear before I go to bed pretty much like every night?
Right. I fall asleep to you every night at DT. Yeah. And you just don't know it. Right. Well, that's awesome. So give us a little background, maybe if you can. What helped maybe from your upbringing or college, whatever it may be? Yeah. What's really kind of helped you become the woman you are today?
Partly I think it's just in my DNA of like, you know, I grew up in a home that we were pretty active. My dad is very, very active. But my mom, this is back, I'm going to date myself a little bit. There was a lot of aerobics on TV that you could.
The high socks
or even
and everything.
VHS if you bought the tapes. Okay, yeah. So I saw my mom doing all those classes because she had 4 kids at home. So she would pop in Gilliland and do the, you know, step aerobics, and then I would mimic that. I was put into gymnastics and dance at age 3. And I loved it because I started walking at 10 months. I was crawling and everything. I was just, I couldn't be stopped. I love movement so much. And my mom was like, well, we need to put this energy into something. So she put me into sport. So I ended up, I don't really think the nutrition part of it and lifestyle part really, I don't think I understood what I was doing until I was actually in college. Yep. But growing up, I was in school all day, and then I would be in dance and gymnastics until high school. And then I had to decide kind of which one I wanted to, you know, sports are very demanding on your time. And every coach wants you there full force. So I chose to really dive deep into gymnastics because I was excelling there. And I thought that it was a really, I love a challenge. I think it's just part of my spirit. And it was one of the most rewarding sports because every single day that you show up to practice, you had to figure out something new about yourself and figure a way to learn something new, get stronger physically, get stronger mentally. You know, sports, especially gymnastics, where there's like a constant level of fear playing. You're really working with a mental, like a mental challenge there. So, yeah, I mean, being an athlete my whole life and then getting into college, I was going pre-law. Yeah. I believe in like fairness and equality. And I was interning at a law office in high school for a couple of years. And having seen, you know, lawyers in my face and what their lives were like on a daily basis, they just kept telling me, pulling me aside, like quietly, and they'd say like, don't do this. You know, like this is your life. Footsteps. You're just going to be, don't follow this. Like you're a pretty happy person. Like you don't want to just be like reading all the time. And I'm like, well, I love to read, but I'm glad that I had that dose of reality and I missed moving my body and moving for a living. Right. When I got to school. So I had to make that change. After my freshman year, I decided that I was not going to go into law, that I would change my major and go into dance again, and forge that river, see what that held for me. So it's brought me to New York. I got my bachelor's degree in dance. I got picked up by for an internship with Alvin Ailey and Broadway Dance Center, and that kind of kicked off like my fitness career in New York.
Okay. So, I mean, that really becomes a personal brand, right? I mean, you're dancing and there's, I don't want to say on every street corner, but there's a lot of trainers. And so to get to the level that you've gotten to, with through Nike, through Peloton, through whatever it may be, there's a lot of people out there, right? So what do you think it was about you that helped you in that journey, if you will, or that grind that helped you get to where you're at today?
So, well, Brett, I mean, I feel like it's the timing thing, because I started training in New York when there was, I'm not going to put it all on timing. Definitely, there's a couple different things, but I started at big box gyms, and I was just I had a couple mentors that really helped put me into positions to succeed. I caught wind after having got like a year or two deep into training at a gym. I reached out to another company, and they introduced me to like corporate fitness. So I was working with people that were at desks all day, and then we'd go into like a huge conference room and work out. I'd lead classes there, and I just got to see what people were needing. And I think that why me? A lot of trainers, what I see now versus that, or versus not then, but myself, is that I don't care about, I don't want to say I don't care about me, but I really care deeply about my clients and about people in general. And I want them to feel the love for movement and how it makes their body feel, and how that changes their relationship with themselves and their confidence, and it bleeds into every area of their life. And so I know that passion is inherent to me, and I think it's a gift, and I want to be able to share it with people. But timing, like the boom of the fitness industry and the boutique fitness industry, you had like, gosh, Barry's Bootcamp was popping up, Soul Cycle was popping up. Then came like, all the different ones that there's just too many to even name at this point now, right? But I got in the first year when they started. I walked right in. I took one class, and I was like, "Yep, this is what I want to do." I used to YouTube Barry's Bootcamp classes on the treadmill at the big box gym that I was teaching at, just because I loved the group fitness aspect, and I love the intensity of it. So I walked up to the owner, and I was like, "Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I want to work here."
So let's spend time on that right there, because you said, again, it's not about just timing. It takes courage to walk up to a person and say, "Hey, I'm Rebecca. I want to work here. And, oh, by the way, I am going to work here." So talk to us about that. And before you do that, the circuits of success, we talk about attitude. We talk about your belief system. We talk about taking action. And then ultimately that gets your results, right? Those are the circuits.
Right.
And so that took a belief system in yourself, but it also took action to shake that hand. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. Well, so my mom has this theory growing up. She was like, if anything makes you feel nervous or slightly uncomfortable, you have to go address it immediately. Like get the nervousness out of the way. And so I did just that. Like if I sit on anything, I won't do it.
Right.
So I have to make it happen like right away. I love my mom for like teaching me that, but it kind of came from the confidence that I had in myself. It came from every single moment in my sport career to then, I think it's my parents really helped me instill a lot of confidence in myself. But I knew what I wanted also. So I think it's not just finding that confidence within you, but it's like knowing that you're meant to do this and that you're going to add value, and know why. It's not just because you desperately wanted to do it. It's because I knew that I could do what they were doing, and I would add something different and unique to it, and that they would be grateful that I came to them.
Yep. So I love that. And what I hear in that is I hear passion, but I also hear and have a question about thinking. So somebody just asked me this the other day. They're like, "Did you know you'd be successful growing up?" And I'm like, "Or did you know what you wanted to do when you were going to grow up?" And I said, "No, I had no idea." Like, but I knew I wanted to be successful, and I knew that I was going to give everything I could possibly give to be successful. And it wasn't, again, to your point, not for yourself. Of course, you want nice things and finer things in life, but my mission in life is to help people see a future greater than their past. And that's what I get up every day, and I'm fired up to do this stuff or to do client meetings and run our wealth management company. But I hear that like think time. Did you spend a lot of time thinking about that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I wanted to be a million things when I was growing up, but I could never see myself exactly. Like if you asked me even 5 years ago what I would be doing today, I don't know. So if you ask me where I'm going to be in another 5 years, I don't know. But I do know that I believe if I give everything that I have to what I'm doing, it leads me to the next place that I need to be going. So I just, I trust the process. I have faith in doing my best, and that'll get me to the next place.
So talk about those. When you heard me say earlier about attitude and your belief system and your actions, when you hear the word attitude, what comes to mind?
I always think positive attitude. I'm a eternal optimist, but I think honestly, like leading with a positive attitude can change the entire landscape of your day, of your life, of that moment. I think when I talk about it it's you choose to be a victor, not a victim, right? Because there's so many things. Something's going to happen to you and I today, and we have a choice with our attitude to either how we're going to respond with it, either negatively or positively, right? So to your point, positive attitude. But I think so many people, something happens and then it's like they want to go get in the fetal position for a week and cry about it, when I think my assumption would be somebody like you says, that's okay, that stinks, I don't want it to happen, that sucked really bad, but I'm going to go out and take action now and do something about it. Fair? Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think I'm very solution-based thinker. So the mentality that I live with is trusting the process, but knowing that like you have the ability to kind of change anything. You have the ability to filter out what you're hearing, how things are quote unquote making you feel. You can choose whether or not to react in a multitude of ways, obviously. So I think if you're in charge of your emotions, you can really navigate into, not to say that like feeling bad for a moment is fine. Growing up, we always had this rule in my house. It's like, if you're upset about something, you're allowed to have one pity party and then you have to kind of keep going.
I like that.
And I appreciate that. It's like, okay, go be sad for a second. But then once you're done with that, wallowing in it doesn't change anything. And it doesn't make your life any better. But if you're solution based, and I think at Peloton, I thrive here is because we're a solution based company, especially when you're still like a startup and everyone is expected to be very like scrappy and the best at what they do. So when you're coming to the table and you're trying to think about like, what's next? How do we get from point A to point Z? You're like, whoa, this is like, I tend to take on big, massive projects, and I don't get scared by them because I know I can do them. And I'm a gymnastics, like you'd get kicked out of practice if you said the word can't. And I'm not joking about that. You would literally be kicked out and you'd have to leave the gym if you said the word can't. So it changes the way your genetic makeup. Like after a while, it's like, I can do this. I just want to let you know, I'm afraid. I need a spot. I need help. And it teaches you how to like delegate and inform yourself of like, what kind of team and support do you need at this time when you're going through things. And you don't have to go through everything alone either. So knowing like, positive attitude, what does that mean? It's not that somebody's just happy and has a smile on their face all the time. It's like positive that I'm going to be a winner. I'm like you said, a victor. I couldn't agree more, especially when you're whatever part of the team or of the family or of the partnership that you're in. It can be not just obviously in sports, but in every area of your life.
That's right. When thoughts become your actions, right? And then your actions become your results or your reality. And I think that if we continually say, To your point, like I say to my kids, they'll be like, "Oh, I can't get my seatbelt on." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, you're right. If you think you can't, you can't, right?
Right. Yeah.
But if you think you can, there's another way. Maybe you move the backpack and you get stuff, and then you make it happen, right? So we're in the same line there. So how about your belief system? When you think about, when it comes to your eating, your sleeping, your movement, your businesses, all the things that you do, what's your belief system that Rebecca Kennedy has to follow like every day?
Consistency and balance. My belief in there has to be a balance of everything. I can't live in the polar, ends of anything, whether that be like the extremes of dieting, of sleep, of exercise, of anything. Too much of anything is not a good thing. Not enough of anything is not a good thing. I'll give you a little insight. When I was in New York at the beginning, I was also fitness modeling, and the demand of being a dancer and a fitness model. And I was, New York City is very expensive to live in. So I had another job on the side, a couple other jobs. And one of them, I was bartending late at night. So I would bartend overnight. I'd show up to like the gym first thing in the morning when it opened. I would sleep for a couple hours. I'd go to castings, go, to dance class, maybe an audition, and then I'd go back to work at night. And I was trying to stay really in shape. So I was limiting my calories. I was maximizing my energy expenditure, and I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. That is not a sustainable way of life. In your early 20s, maybe it's more sustainable. But now, and, especially feeling like I have a greater opportunity to be a role model, and I don't take it on as a responsibility. I am what I am. And so being able to showcase, okay, getting 7 to 8 hours a night, like, how does that make you feel?
Right.
Drinking, 3 liters of water a day, how does that make you feel? If I'm depriving myself of sweets all the time, or carbs, or if you're doing the next diet always and you're constantly in deprivation, like, how does that mentally make you feel? So I had to figure out what I needed personally. And I think consistency, when you find the things that work for you, stick with them. And knowing that the balance is then, okay, if I need to have one night where I'm not sleeping like the full 7 to 8 hours, that's okay. It's not the end of the world, but it's not going to be my consistent. If I need to have that sweet, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. I want that because it makes me feel great. So those two things, and it works in every area of your life, especially if, like, I can tend to be a workaholic too. Like, I know my tendencies. And I love what I do. So I'm like, no, it's okay. I'll take on that extra work. I'll take on that extra project. I can do it. So the positive attitude also, like, can get in the way, but knowing your belief system, like you said, I'm a firm believer in, like, you need to get your basics, but you need to know what your basics are.
Right. Amen to that. I think that's a crucial thing. I talk about Focus 90. I have, in the business world, what we talk about is when you walk in your office door, you need to have mapped out what your first 90 minutes are every day. And now, does that mean, 365 days a year you do it? No, of course not. I don't do it on the weekends.
Right.
But I do it probably 4 to 5 days during the week. And there's going to be a day where I miss it. But I know when I put my backpack down, I grab my big water, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I have found I'm controlling my day versus the day controlling me.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah. So, because I think we can come into the office, right? And you pull up your phone or your computer, and all of a sudden these emails and voicemails, and next thing you know, it's noon and you haven't accomplished anything productive.
Yep.
So we got to stop that, right?
100%.
So talk to us about the food intake. So you being who you are, and I'll be the student here, you be the teacher, and talk to us about busy lives and how we can make all the excuses in the world to not eat healthy. Now, again, I know there's that cheat meal or there's those things, but talk to us about what we need to do and how we need to prepare to eat healthy.
Yeah. So I'll start this off by saying I'm not a certified nutritionist. So I'm not going to ever give anyone a prescribed diet plan, but I'll give you a generalized suggestion that I typically teach my clients about and I live by myself. So first and foremost, I can't help stress enough like how important having water is. And obviously, like, you know, that your first 90 minutes, like, you're getting it. I do my routine first thing when I wake up in the morning. I'll have my water, and then I'll have a juice of some sort, like, and I'm not talking like
orange juice, right? Yeah.
Right now I'm having like a green juice, something that is going to be a little bit more nutrient based, and I'm a very low sugar person. I just don't think it helps me sleep well. I have energy crashes, and my schedule is all over the place in terms of like when I'm teaching, when I'm working out. So I need to have consistent energy. I don't want to have spikes in my energy. Mm-hmm. I love having a collagen coffee in the morning. Gives you a little protein. If you're not a coffee drinker, you can put it into your smoothies. You can put it into so many other things. Okay. But having protein first thing in the morning is really, really helpful. And then throughout the day, right, it's going to be one of those things where like a macro approach is always the best for me. And I think it works really well for most people because it doesn't say what you can eat. It teaches you like when you're figuring out, what an apple is versus a steak versus a bowl of cereal, you understand what you're putting into your body. Right. And I think education is the best tool for helping people understand what they're trying to achieve here. So there's plenty. I've worked with nutritionists, I've worked with naturopaths, and I love the naturopath's approach because she takes into consideration, or he or she, whoever you're working with, will figure out the stresses in your life too, and like kind of what you need, and give you a personalized macro approach. And the reason I love this is because I can have different foods every single day. That means if I'm traveling, as long as if it fits my macros, I'm totally fine. So I can be in the airport, I can be, in Kentucky, I can be in New York, I can be in Marrakesh, I can be anywhere, wherever you're going. I've never been to any of those places. I don't know why I mentioned it, but
oh my God, I wonder what the tie is to Kentucky, but okay. Now that
yeah, I don't know, but either way, the point is like, you can enjoy the foods of wherever you're at. I also want to mention like how throughout the day, I think making sure that you're getting enough protein, enough fiber, enough vegetables. My rule of thumb for the way I'm eating is like, I want 2/3 of my plate to be vegetables, and then protein and the carbs come from the vegetables. You can also have, sweet potato, some rice, some, cauliflower crust pizza, like whatever it may be. But I think it's really important to learn that carbs are actually necessary for your energy systems. Yep. Especially if you're working out, if you're riding on the bike, if you're running on the tread, if you're lifting, like you need that energy supply. So in the past, they've been like demonized by the press. The carbs are not your friend, or the keto diet, or intermittent fasting. And like, we're all looking for a fast solution. So I encourage everyone not to take the path most taken, but to take the path least taken, which is the slowest one. And no, you're not going to see the results overnight. And I have to say that you shouldn't see the results overnight, because this is for the long game. So changing the way you think. There's never going to be a pill. If there was ever going to be a pill that changed it, it would have already existed. And I'd be afraid of what it would do to my metabolism, to be honest. But I think it's a fun game to learn how food can fuel you and how food can nourish you. I know we live in a society that's extremely built around, built over meals, right? So we love to have conversations and quality time built around meals. So be the owner of that and create meals that are delicious, and start to cook more. I think if people cooked more and ordered out less or went out less, that it would be a far different relationship that you have with food. But there's plenty of apps out there too that when you start putting the food in there, that'll show you what you're eating, and not to get you all caught up in the mental side of things, like how many calories am I eating, but just to educate you from a very baseline standpoint, and then you can kind of go from there.
Yep. I think that's good feedback. And I think too, like for myself is, you work during the day. I got 4 kids. I'm going to soccer games and basketball games and baseball games. And it's like last night's a perfect example. We're 45 minutes from home. It's going to be late. They got to get home and get showered and get to bed. And I know all the parents are like, they're saying, yep, that's exactly what I did last night. Right. And so you find yourself going through a Chick-fil-A or a Burger King. And it's like, gosh, I'm so tired of doing that. But so I don't know what the answer is, but I guess it's preparation and a process to have it, maybe a cooler pack before we go. And
I was just going to say, yeah.
It's not as fun, Rebecca.
That the other day. I was like, what did we do because I'm like having a hard time remembering. She's like, sometimes you would just go home and after gymnastics practice and go to bed. And I was like, so I didn't eat.
You're like, yeah, I just went to bed hungry.
Yeah. But
you have a good breakfast.
No, I know. I was like, this is kind of crazy. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, gosh, having like logistics make eating really tough. So I think you just said you have your first 90 minutes of the day planned out every single day.
Yeah.
What happens if you just looked at the calendar? This is what I do on every Sunday. I map out and I use different color pens for everything. So that I know when my workouts are, and I know, okay, well, I'm going to need to eat that day. So either I'm going to order something before, so it's like ready to go after, and I know it's clean and I know where to get things from.
Right.
So knowing what's in proximity to where you're at. Or I'll just start to cook a ton of things on Sunday and then have it ready for me to go. So either I can take it with me and just like put it in a Tupperware to eat like right after, or I have a holdover so I can have like a bar with me, which is like not super ideal, or a smoothie or something like that, but get something into your system like right away. I'm a snack person. Like if you ever travel with me, I have a bag full of snacks. I know what you can take on TSA, like, but I think it's important. Like you can, nothing is worse. You can probably relate to this. Like, you ever been so hungry that you're just like, I don't care what I eat. I just need to eat right now.
Absolutely. My wife says I get hangry all the time,
It's an emotion.
Exactly.
Anger is an actual emotion.
I think that the choice is, so you see, I got my red shirt on. You see the Cardinal hat in the background. I'm in St. Louis, right? So huge Cardinal fan. So here's my dilemma. So I'm going to go to the Cardinal game today. It's a 12:15 start.
Yep.
I'm going to go with some buddies, and we're going to go have some fun. And we're going to go to a restaurant. It's like, basically Ballpark Village at the game. We're going to watch the Cardinals bring home a win, but I'm probably going to partake in wings and a hot dog and maybe a couple beers. But what you're telling me is it's okay, right? Because it's the balance, the integration part you're talking about.
100%.
So Rebecca Kennedy would do the same thing if you were going to the Cardinal game with us today. You'd have a couple beers and a hot dog.
I'd have a burger.
All right, that makes me feel better. Well, we ordered one of those plant burgers or whatever the heck it's called from Burger King last night to try to be somewhat healthier, and I'm like, it actually tasted somewhat normal.
Oh, yeah. No, they do taste like burgers. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of weird. But all right, enough of that. So talk to me about fears. How much has fear played a role in your life? And the second question that I always ask is, how many of the fears you put in your mind actually blew up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
Yeah, I mean, the monster that exists is like whatever you believe it to be, right? It can grow bigger and bigger. But gosh, there was a moment in time, I think I have a level of fearlessness in me that evacuated my body at one moment. And I remember this pivotal moment in gymnastics where up until that point, nothing shook me. I was like, I would jump off anything. I'd flip anywhere. I loved it. But I remember this one teammate of mine said, you could get really hurt if you just bailed out of a backflip, if you landed on your neck, or like you could break things, you could break your neck. I was like, I think it was 7 at the time. I was like, oh my God, you're right. I was
On top of that.
well, I'm not doing that anymore, you know? And unfortunately, in gymnastics, like, you can't not flip backwards. It's part of every apparatus, and it only things you learn one flip, then you learn two flips. If you learn one twist, then you learn two twists. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to learn the baseline, but it's always going to be there. So for me, once I had that fear in the back of my head, every single practice that I showed up to, I had to face that fear. And that, I'm not talking once a week. It's 4 to 5 times a week, 3 to 4 hours every practice, and it is emotionally taxing. So I had to find a way to kind of get through it. I'm going to tell you a really quick story that the way I got over it, because it was pretty cool. And my mom is a very creative lady, and I hope that I'm as creative as her when I have kids down the road. But she'd be the one bring me, just like you bring your kids to practice. She'd bring me to every single practice, sit there, wait for me, and then drive me home. And seeing your kids, like, if they ever have a roadblock, like a mental roadblock of just a fear, you're just like, I wish I could help you, but you can't do it for them. So she got me these books on tape to listen to on the way to practice. I've listened to them before I go to bed. That didn't work. She took me to a hypnotherapist. I went and talked to like multiple people. I'd go to extra practices just to have that one-on-one time with my coach and not a lot of people around me. Nothing seemed to be working. So she was a visiting nurse, and so driving around in other towns made sense. So she said she stopped by this gym and talked to the coach about my fear. And she brought back this vial of tablets. And she was like, basically what you do, and we're going to do it when we go to the next practice, is before you go to do your next backflip, like, we're going to go into the bathroom, put the tablet on your tongue, stare at yourself in the mirror, and you can't chew it. You have to let it dissolve. But while it's dissolving in your mouth, you just have to repeat the words, I can do it, I can do it. And you have to visualize yourself doing whatever it is that scares you. So I had visualization technique. I was like repeating this positive mantra over and over in my head until this thing, which took like 5 minutes to dissolve. And then I'd go right downstairs and immediately do it. And all of a sudden I had no fear anymore. I could do it. So I did that for years. Brett, I'm not going to lie. We had a lot of like those moments in the bathroom. I'm sure my coach was like, what is this?
The heck is she doing?
But, at one competition a few years later, I asked my mom for one of them because I was like, I'm having a little nervousness right now. And she was like, oh, okay, well, I have to get a new vial out of my bag. So just hold on for a second. Just close your eyes. And I obviously was like, why do I need to close my eyes? I saw her peeling a label off of them, and I grabbed it, and it was vitamin C tablets. Or tablets.
So I was going to ask.
You're a liar. I was so
It's called placebo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like that moment, and I knew I just went in and did my competition. I did really well. I knew how much of it was in my head. And so now, like, for example, I'm afraid of heights, and I always have been. But I do everything in my power to challenge them. And I think when you put into, you try to justify your fear, you laugh a little bit because it doesn't make sense. And I think that helps me. I don't just chalk it up to, well, that's who I am. I'm like, no, that doesn't have to control my life. I hated the fact that I was afraid to do certain things, and it limited me on the amount of fun that I could have. So rock climbing, walking on high bridges, rope courses, anything that's going to challenge my fear of heights, I do it all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like it. Talk to us about maybe a moment on what took you to your knees. You thought, man, this is, and maybe you haven't had one, but is there any big challenging moments that you've had that you had to overcome that, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. Well, I think the first one I remember is like moving to New York City and not knowing anybody here, and just going from college where you had life was like kind of taken care of for you.
Okay.
And then being in a big city where like no one cares about you, no one knows your name, like you can just exist here. So that was scary for me. But then I was barely making ends meet. There was 1 month, it was the first month that I was here, that I didn't have enough money to pay both my rent and MetroCard, but I was living in Brooklyn, so I had to have a MetroCard, and I couldn't have money left over to pay my phone bill. So I had to live for a month without access to my cell phone, and my parents didn't love that. I was too proud and to even ask for help. But that was a really scary month. Like, I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it. I didn't know if I made the wrong decision to move here, if I was always like going to be living in this, scarcity mindset. But I had to really rely on myself. And I feel like the rock bottom moments are what really changes a person and sees what you're made out of. That's where you kind of have to rely on your positive attitude and your belief system and like creating this. In my mind, I'm not going to lose. I'm relentless in that way. Right. And I figure out a way to make it happen. So, I ended up getting another job and like, picking up a little extra work, which is not something I had really the time or desire to do, but like you do what you have to do. And, obviously I got it turned back on and it was fine. So it doesn't seem like a big thing, but like the amount of fear that I had in myself, like I was here alone and I had no way to get in contact. And like, it just felt very overwhelming and lonely. But I'll circle back to like a couple years ago, I tore both of my hamstrings, while I was a trainer, and my entire livelihood is built on being able to move. You don't show up for work, you don't get paid. You don't train a client, you don't get paid. I was supposed to be running a triathlon in 4 months. I was supposed to be leading my first retreat in 4 months and 1 week. I had a lot going on. I just started my own business. It was mentally like debilitating. And I remember being like so down on myself. It was also like, I'd just gone through a breakup. I tore both my hamstrings. It was just like things in life were just like, it felt like every wall was crumbling around me. And
don't you think that made you stronger though? I mean, like when you really think about it, and whether you write a book or not, I always say whether I read a book or not, but this is a chapter of my book.
100%. Right. Yeah. Those are the moments that you're like, what did I do back then? Because I didn't sit in the shower and cry every day. I was like, this is the game plan. I'm going to go do this. I meet with my physical therapist. What do you need me to do? You give me homework, I'm going to do it. Right. I was like adamant about my recovery. I did what I can. So my also belief system is do what you can with what you have right now. So it starts with like, okay, what are you working with today? It's going to be different than what you're working with in a month, but like start with today, work with the body that you have, work with the means that you have. And eventually, like, I think about the greats. I always listen to, if you haven't already, like the podcast.
The Circuit of Success?
The Circuit of Success. You have to listen to it. Because there's just, listen, whether it's like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or John Foley or whoever it is, like everyone's success story is just teaching you that it has to start with nothing or an idea or maybe their rock bottom that got them to where they are now, but it all starts somewhere. And I'm like, maybe this moment is the moment where I'm going to not just get back to where I was, but I always end up springing so far forward. So I kind of look forward. This is weird to say, but I look forward to those moments because I've risen so far above where I was even before I get injured or before that rock bottom. That is just like kind of, it gives you this exciting opportunity to see what you're made out of again.
So now we're going to have some fun here. I steal your cell phone right now. What's the one app you hope I don't delete from your phone? Besides email, it's not that fun.
What is that?
I said besides, like you can't say like my email or something like that.
Oh yeah.
That's not very fun.
Or you can steal that.
Yeah, exactly. He can have emails.
I think I would say Instagram, only because I really like connecting with everyone. I think it's a great way just to be able to share fun experiences and honestly, like, I communicate with so many of my friends, family members, friends from the past, members on Peloton. Like, you just have an opportunity to meet a lot of cool people. I've met so many people on Instagram, which is fun.
That's how we're here.
At the same time. Yeah, I know. That's how we're here.
That's how we're here today. Favorite book? You're a reader. I see some books behind you there. If you're watching,
I've read all of them. They're nice. My favorite book of all time would definitely be Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. Huh. That changed my life about 11 years ago when I read it. The Four Agreements are always do your best, be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, and the fourth one is escaping me at the moment, but I'll come back to you. But the way, the philosophies behind each one of them help you take a moment where you're going through a hard time and understand it. It puts everything through a filter and allows you to see it through a different lens, where, like, say for example, they're doing layoffs or at your work, or you didn't get chosen to be put head on a project or whatever it is, or you get, broken up with, or you, whatever the situation is that feels negative, is don't take anything personally. Nothing anyone ever does is because of you. It's because of them. And knowing that is so true, and you can really understand that, they're very difficult to live by, but when you do, you end up having this deeper appreciation and the level of happiness, deeper appreciation for yourself in life, and also just a level of happiness that you might not have attained prior to that. So
it's good. I'll have to check that book out. Sounds good. I've never asked this before, but I'm going to have you do it because I can tell family is really important to you. If your mom and dad, I think they'll probably listen to this, but if they're going to listen to this, what's one message you'd like to tell mom and dad right now?
That I appreciate their support. I think my mom and dad bent over backwards for me to do the things that I did. And I know there's probably a lot of parents out there that if your child was going into law, you'd be really proud of them. And if they decided they wanted to go major in dance instead, that
you're going to do what again?
Yeah, you're like, maybe not, and try to coerce them into doing something else. But there was nothing that I could have said to my parents that they wouldn't have been like, okay, well, that's it. That's what you're going to do. And I support you. Like, what can we do to help you? Like, when I moved to New York, they moved me here. Like, when I had my first show, they were there. So I appreciate their support. I think that's one thing is, like, in life, connection is what people are really looking for. And having support from people, you just want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be felt like you're important, you feel support is all of that. So I can't thank them enough for that. And I also appreciate them pushing me.
I like it. Is your mom crying right now hearing that?
She's a crier, so she probably is. My dad
is. Your dad's not crying, mom's crying. Right. That's funny. Yeah. Well, Rebecca, it's been awesome having you. Where can our listeners find more of you? Obviously, you talked about Instagram, but talk to us about your Instagram handles, your websites, anything else like that. Where can we find you?
Yeah. You guys can find me on Instagram. I'm at RKSolid NYC. It's RKSOLID NYC. I'm also on Facebook. I know a lot of you guys are on there, so you can jump on my Rebecca Kennedy Peloton page. I'm very active on that.
All right.
And if you can go to my website, it's RebeccaKennedyFitness.com.
Awesome. Rebecca, it's been awesome having you. And really look forward to everybody getting to hear this. You've been awesome today, so we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Brett. It was great.